Good morning, everybody. Anybody there? Hi. And good morning to everybody online. We've got live people in today, so do keep that in mind. If you're close by, you can come to these live. This morning, we're going to have a very, very fascinating talk about how the organ works. I'm going to be talking about the pipe organ. Just so you know, this is actually not a real pipe organ. It is digital. We will be talking about digital instruments towards the end, talking about the new age in the organ industry and all that and how technology is coming in. But I will be talking about the pipe organ in particular because that's the one that has all the interesting stuff happening, right? So it's going to be an interesting talk, lots of photos, diagrams and things. So bear with me, some of them may be slightly fuzzy, but I'll explain what you're seeing. Okay, so you're going to look at the inner workings of a true pipe organ. We're going to sing 2 songs and I'm going to play 2 organ pieces. I'm going to do an introductory voluntary. This is typical. I don't know if you remember the other talks that I did on organ music, how from the 17th century up into the 18th century and into the 19th century, the British in particular loved their voluntaries. So these were just general pieces. They weren't particularly meant for church per se, but, you know, sort of like fill-in music, if you will. So I'm going to do, it doesn't have a fancy title at all. It's just Introductory Voluntary number 5 of a collection from volume number 2 by T.M. Patterson. Here we go. There we go. So that's typical from the later Victorian era. As you can hear, it's awfully romantic. Should almost be played by a bunch of violins in a background score to a romantic movie, shouldn't it? Now, I don't know if you could hear there the difference in timbres, the difference in tones and stops that I was using from manual to manual. I'll be explaining that in a little while, creating a contrast by using a reed stop at the top and then flute pipes at the bottom. Okay, let's move on. The console. This is a console. It contains everything that your musician needs to produce the sound and to make the music. If you can go back to the console, Ritva, so I can just explain some of the stuff. Can you go back one up? Okay, maybe not. Okay, no. No, not down. Can you go back up to the one that says console? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so manuals and pedals are called divisions of the organ. Okay, so this is a 3-manual instrument with pedal division. So therefore the organ is divided up into 4. Okay, 4 sections. The top keyboard, middle, bottom, and then pedals. And sometimes they can be positioned anywhere in the building or all together in tight fit. Classically, your pedal sections are on either side of the case, with everything else in the middle, but that's not always a hard and fast rule. The instrument can sometimes be broken up, and one section's over there, one section's here, especially with the electronic age. Swell division is the top one. When you heard the oboe playing on that piece I did you hear slightly here and there a volume change? There was like a swelling effect. What happens is that all the pipes of the swell division are in a big wooden box with shutters. I'll show you pictures. The great division, which is the louder, big main section, that's the middle keyboard, is unenclosed, totally open. There's no control over the volume there at all. The choir division, which is the bottom one, is also normally enclosed in its own little box. Pedal division, generally unenclosed, but sometimes the pedal will borrow stops from sections that are in a box so that you can have a bass pedal section that is more expressive. Larger organs will have many other divisions, like solo or celestial organ or whatever, and usually they're enclosed, but sometimes they can be unenclosed as well. You can, as you'll see in a bit, you can see some pretty crazy pipe organ consoles, and you can just think how many divisions there are. Okay, Ritva, let's go. Next one. So the next picture you are going to see, this is just a standard 2-manual pipe organ. There are tons of them. Most smaller congregations would go for this. It's cheaper, it's smaller. When I say cheaper, we're talking like 500,000 plus. So even then, a real pipe organ would be very costly, and then you still got maintenance and all that stuff. There was a time where I thought it would be nice to have a pipe organ up on the balcony, and no, I don't think so. Okay, next one. This is a bigger one. This is like the size of this. Okay, 3 manuals, pedals. You can see this one has stop knobs that you pull in and out. On the sides, others don't. They have tabs that you push up and down. Okay, next one. This is a bigger 4-manual. You'd usually see that in most cathedrals. They are bigger. Normally the top one is what's called solo or echo organ, then swell, then great, then choir, and of course your pedals. You've got toe studs at the bottom that you kick to change combinations while you're playing. It's not easy to do sometimes. Okay, next one, Ritva. This is a typical French organ. Look at the amphitheater sort of step formation. That is typical for 19th century onwards French organs. And this is a 5-manual wonder. So heavens even knows what the other what the other manual is, right? Sometimes the French will have a section called the bombard organ with very loud reed trumpet stops, all of its own. And usually they will have it at the back somewhere so it'll sound like Gabriel is coming to battle. Very, very loud trumpets that will echo through the cathedral. Okay, next. And the French are notorious for their loud trumpets. This is the largest operational pipe organ in the world. It's in the States. It's called the Wanamaker organ. It's in a huge department store that has a massive courtroom in the center of the store, and it's something like 4 or 5 stories in the store. That's all open. I mean, people can go to the boutique and buy their favorite dresses and stuff. There's off to the side, you can even see a bra section, which is kind of interesting, listening to all this music, and here you can see the women's stuff. But this organ is divided into so many sections that they've actually had to build special rooms to accommodate it all. I saw on YouTube a lady doing a personal tour. The technicians were taking her for a tour. And it's crazy. You see this old flight of steps that used to go to like the men's bathroom, let's say, way back when. And the men's bathroom is now converted into a special organ chamber, but the staircase is still there, and all along the side are these massive big wooden pipes with these big mouths, and as she walks by, you see her hair go because the organist pushed a pedal pipe. And she said, wow, now that was a blast, you know. It's just a crazy setup, largest operational, insane. This is typical for smaller church pipe organs, the tab stops like I was talking about. Instead of pull tabs, that's for the great section. It's a smaller organ. It only has so many stops. As you can see, there is a name, okay, with a number underneath it. And I will explain the numbers in a section. Diapason, 8-foot, flute, 8-foot, and the pipe, the lowest pipe on the keyboard is actually 8 foot tall, by the way. So diapason, 8-foot flute, 8-foot viol, which is a string tone. Prestante, flute, viol again. Doublet, which is a little 2-footer, oboe, 8-foot. And then there's what's called couplers. You can couple the keyboards together. So on this instrument, if I just wanted to play the middle keyboard, and I could couple the other two to it, whatever is on the other two will sound here as well. And you can couple all of that to the pedals too, by the way. You can get some really neat effects that way. If there's a stop on the swell that is nowhere else, but you want to couple it, you would just simply use what's called a coupler. There's quite a lot on this instrument for doing coupling. Okay, let's have a look at next. Typical pedal board. They are detachable. Even on a pipe organ, they're not completely fixed tight. But you have to make sure that they fit properly, otherwise the thing doesn't work. So all the little connections and things that you see running along here have to have a clear connection. Concave, and then fanning out. That came about in the late 1800s. The British actually invented that kind of pedal board. Before, they were just perfectly straight and flat, which makes reaching out to the far pedals kind of tough. You have to do this contortion thing with your foot. But because this one's more ergonomic and it curves, it's much easier. You can just keep your legs and knees in a natural position to play them. Okay, next. And you get different sizes. If you have like a little petite lady who's going to play, you can actually change the pedal board to accommodate her feet. Okay, this is just to give you an idea of a detailed schematic of a pipe organ. I'm not going to even go into detail. I just wanted to show you the different divisions. There's the swell division at the top. You can see the representation of shutters. The big pedal pipes away at the back. In the front over here, you have a large pipe. Usually facades of the pipe organs, the pipes that you see are working. They are real pipes. There's little ducts and tubes that connect the wind to them. And they are normally operational. Sometimes they're dummy pipes that are just there to look pretty, but quite often they do actually work. Down below you see the keyboards and the pedals. This is a 3-manual instrument, 3 divisions plus pedal. So if this was a pipe organ, that's probably what it would look like from the side view inside. It looks like it's a mechanical organ. I'll explain that in a second. Mechanical organs use actually pulleys and tugs and things to open up all the flaps underneath the pipes. Okay, next one. We are going to sing a hymn together, and what a beautiful hymn for this time of year. Love divine or love's excelling. I have the organ set on French setting, so you're going to hear some nice fiery trumpets here. Love divine, all love's excelling, joy of heaven to earth come down, fix in us thy humble dwelling, all thy faithful mercies crown. Jesus, thou art all compassion, pure, unbounded love thou art. Visit us with thy salvation, enter every trembling heart. Breathe, oh breathe, thy loving Spirit into every troubled breast. Let us all in thee inherit, let us find the promised rest. Take away our love of sinning, Alpha and Omega be, and of faith as its beginning, set our hearts at liberty. Come, Almighty, to deliver, let us all thy grace receive. Suddenly return and never, never more thy temples leave. Thee we would be always blessing, serve thee as thy hosts above. Pray and praise thee without ceasing. Glory in thy perfect love. Finish then thy new creation, pure and spotless let us be. Let us see thy great salvation, perfectly restored in thee. Changed from glory into glory, till in heaven we take our place, till we cast our crowns before thee, lost in wonder, love, and praise. So what you heard there at the end is what in French they call grand jeu. And grand jeu is basically all the stops open. All the stops operational. It takes quite a lot of wind from the instrument. The bellows in the basement of the instrument go like this, like crazy. When you pull out all the stops and you start playing big chords, if you have to go into the basement where the big fan is, normally it's a big fan like this. Some of them can have 3 or 4 of them. Centrifugal fan, like the old hair dryers that look like the pistol, spinning around and blowing air through all the pipes and all the different air reservoirs that go whoosh. The moment you turn the fan on, these leather and wood things go whoosh. They fill up with air, and they have lead weights on the top to keep the pressure even. Because if the pressure is uneven, as you're playing especially big chords, you'll hear the organ go because the air pressure keeps dropping. But yeah, it's like a living organism with lungs. As the thing is being played with more and more stops and everything, big chords, big pedal notes, you'll see those bellows all go up and down like this, like crazy. It's quite exciting. Okay, the stops on the organ. Whew, I'm out of breath. It's so exciting. On some of them, you saw them on the side, the draw stops. Others are tabs that you flip up and down. This organ has vertical tabs that push in and out, and then they light up to let you know that a stop is on, so it'll illuminate. You have what's called speaking stops. They're actually connected to ranks of pipes that produce a sound. Okay. So as you saw earlier, it said flute 8 foot. That's a speaking stop. So when you activate it and you start playing, you will hear the flute pipes playing. Okay, all 61 of them. I believe there are 61 notes on the manual, so there's 61, a row of 61 pipes, right? You also have non-speaking stops that give you effects. So things like vibrato on a pipe organ wouldn't be a row of pipes that produces a sound. You would have to activate, like, for example, flute. And then when you put vibrato, instead of doo, it'll go woo, okay, a vibrato. So you have effects that can happen. Combination pistons, if you remember the pictures of the consoles, there were all these little white buttons underneath the keys. Well, what's that all about? The organist can actually preset way before a performance if he or she has to quickly change the stops, but the music is way too busy. You don't have time to sit there and free one hand and, oh, I'm supposed to draw that stop. Oops, I missed it. Oh, where am I? Oh. You don't always have time for that if it's a very busy piece of music. So you have thumb pistons that you preset. So you will know ahead of time. This actually has them underneath the keyboards. You can't see them here, but if you come around later, you will see them. I can preset them way before a service if I know what kind of sounds I'm looking for. I have general church sounds, like you don't want to get too crazy when accompanying hymns because it can be distracting if it's too weird. So you kind of want to keep it general. But, you kind of want, okay, well, for this hymn, I kind of want an oboe or a trumpet, but I don't have time to sit there. Well, what verse am I? Oh, I'm mic'd. Oh, I'm singing the wrong words, and I still want to put on the trumpet. Okay, so instead, I just look down quickly and, preset number 2. And then it changes the stops for you automatically. Toe pistons do the same thing. Sometimes your hands are way too busy, like you're doing weird things like crisscross playing, which often happens. I have a French organ piece that switches this way like crazy, and I don't have time to figure out which pistons to push with my thumb. So you can just quickly look down and kick it with your foot while you're playing, but it's the same idea. Memory banks, you get these on modern pipe organs that are controlled electronically and have a computer. This one has memory banks. So let's say this organ is played by 4 or 5 different musicians, and each of them has their own preferences with pistons and combinations and stuff. They can push memory 1 or memory 2. Oh, wait a minute, I'm organist number 3, so I'm memory number 3. So all my presets are recorded. Okay, that is a really, really good thing if you have more than one musician. Tutti. Tutti frutti. Tutti piston. Tutti is an Italian word meaning everything or everyone. Okay, tutto, tutti. And it is a piston off to the side, and when you push it, just automatically, boom, all the stops come on. So you don't have to worry with that pedal and, is it pushed down all the way? Am I opening up all the pipes? No, you can just push the tutti, boom, and all of them. And you know what? On pipe organs, it actually makes a sound when you push it. It's an incredible thump because all the stops come out at the same time. And the moment you push it, you hear this boom. It's quite something. It's like, okay, guys, we're ready for takeoff. Mars, here we come. And then it's all the pipes come on at the same time. This instrument has something interesting built into it. There's a second special piston, and they call it Orchestral Crescendo. And what it does, if you want sort of a Wurlitzer or an old theater house organ sound, you can activate that piston, and when you put on the crescendo pedal, it'll actually activate the vibratos. And there are several vibratos on here. Some are fast, some are heavy. So as you're playing, there'll be nothing, and then all of a sudden you'll activate it, then you'll hear the organ start whir, 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 while you're playing. Very interesting thing. General cancel piston, you push it, it turns everything off, which is a great help. All too often, in the past, especially big pipe organs in big churches, I'd forget. And when I stand up to go vacate the organ pit, I'll stand on the pedals and you'll hear this roar as thunder. And it's like, oh dear, I forgot to turn off all the pipes. One time, big church in downtown Johannesburg, the minister was deep in prayer. I had all the pipes turned on. I was ready for a grand final hymn. And everyone's with their eyes shut and the hymn book fell off the music desk. Boom. And as it was a 3-manual organ as well, and it hit all 3 keyboards as it went down, and then it landed on the pedals right next to my knee. So, amen. Okay. Moving right along. Ritva, let's see what comes next. Expression pedals, I was talking about those. There's normally 2 or 3 black pedals above the ones that you play that can be manipulated while you're playing them back and forth, kind of like an accelerator on a car, okay, if you think of it that way. Off to the far side is what they call the general crescendo. What it does is it consecutively adds ranks of pipes and subtracts them as you push down and release. So it will make the organ grow and swell and get more and more and more and more loud towards full pedal, full ranks, and then it will cut them off as you bring it back up to the basic stops. Swell expression, choir expression, those are 2 sections that are normally enclosed in a big wooden box with shutters. And then as you activate those, they open and close the shutters. Okay, that creates that wah, wah effect. Okay, that's called swell expression playing. Otherwise, the organ is very expressionless. It's just a windy whistle machine. It's not like a piano where the stronger you play on the keys, the brighter and the louder it sounds. You have to create all of this artificially, and that's how they do it in a swell box. Some say the French came up with it first, but some say the British did. So there you go. They can duke it out over the strait. Okay, other divisions will also be in swell boxes quite often times, and they'll have their own expression pedals as you go. So on a large 4, 5, 6, or in that case of that massive 7 manual organ, you'll have several of them. Okay, next. This is a swell section, looking at it from the inside of a swell box. Okay, you can see all the pipes assembled there in their nice little rows. And the swell shades are actually shut over here. So if you're on the other side, in the audience, in the church, wherever, you will hear a muted, quieter sound because all of those wooden shutters are closed. Okay, so let's have a look at next. Here they're open. You can see that they're all standing there like little soldiers. The mechanism for them are at the top. There's levers and things that all connect and pull and push them closed or open. This is again from the inside. So yeah, you can manipulate those as you're playing for an expressive louder than softer. Not just louder and softer, but actually muted tone. This is something that can be quite tough to replicate on digital instruments. They come pretty close. But when you shut those shades, it doesn't just make the pipes inside softer, but mutes it. In other words, it makes it less bright, it makes it more mellow. Okay, so sometimes that can be very tough to replicate. Next. Here's a swell box from the outside. You can see this one's electrical. So it's got an electrical box there with a motor that will pull on those levers to open and shut them as they go. Some of them just have the shades in the front. Others will have them all around, even the top sometimes. All depends on the organ design and what the tone effect is that they're looking for in the building. Okay, so a building like this, you're not looking for a pipe organ that's going to scream. Okay, you want something that's a little quieter, more mute. Otherwise, the people are going to go, no, send it back. Some classical layout, sometimes the swell section is below the main organ, but you can still see the shades. So if you look at classical sort of Baroque style German pipe organs, where the organist, the console is actually attached to the main case. Quite oftentimes you'll see this section just above the organist that has these slats. That's their swell section. And this one's open. Okay, talk about actions quickly. There are tons of actions, but some of them are outdated now. This is still very popular, the mechanical tracker action. This is the oldest, the original, of course. I mean, if you're thinking of 15, 16, 1700s, they did not have electric actions. So for that reason, almost alone, the pipe organ is classed as one of the most complex inventions ever in the world, other than the space shuttle and all of that. But in terms of ancient inventions, you know, we're using string, we're using wood, we're using all sorts of these things to pull cranks and do all sorts of things, and it can get very complicated. So oldest original action linking keys and pedals to the pipes. This is probably one of the downsides. Very complex, very fragile. You get a rat in there, oh baby, they're going to do damage like you can't believe. And they require the most maintenance. So every so often something will go off kilter. You need to make sure it aligns again. Oh, this key is not pushing down all the way. There could be all sorts of funny things. Stuck keys, stuck. Oh, yeah, I'm going to tell you another story of that big organ I played in Johannesburg, that beautiful old British turn of the century thing. There was one Sunday where one of the low pedal pipes on a specific rank, just one pipe of a specific soft, deep bass flute got stuck. Don't know why, but the flap kept staying open, which meant wind kept siphoning into this pipe. And I'm playing the hymns and I'm wondering, what is this drone I'm hearing? Because as I'm playing away, I just hear this throughout the whole thing. And I'm like, I can't figure it out. And then, of course, we did our Amen and our final sort of very traditional Presbyterian church. They liked singing their Amens. And it finished, and the echo went through this big marble building with its stained glass windows, and I still kept hearing this when suddenly I realized it's coming from the organ case. Oh no, this is going to go on the whole service, and it did. So, end of the hymn, I needed to turn the organ off to stop this, otherwise the minister's going to be preaching with this drone going on behind him. And as I pushed the off button, and the bellows compacted and released the air, this drone went, literally, you could hear the air. And then when it came to the next hymn, and I had to push the button again, and the bellows filled up, it went, like, oh no, this is horrible. So yeah, things getting stuck. Not fun. Okay, they're often noisy, that action, click, 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 clack, 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 clack. They can do all sorts of things to try and hide it. They'll use pieces of velvet and all sorts of things. Doesn't matter. Sometimes you can hear them sitting way down in the sanctuary. Your pipe organ will be way up there, and you can hear this click, 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 clack, 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 clack going on. This is a typical, go back to the other one, Ritva, please. Typical side view. Apparently this is supposed to be Bach. Could well be. It's a Baroque organ. It's from the right period. They didn't have electronic blowers, poor sucker. Look at that. He has to push down. There's 3 bellows there. They could have up to 7. Push down, and then it slowly comes back up. And in the meantime, he's pushing down others. And then he'll start again because this lever has come back to the top. And that's how they would do it. So they would be at all different levels at the same time. And he would have to keep it even. This is a look behind the manuals of a mechanical organ. Wow, is all I can say, right? I mean, just look at all those connectors and things pulling and tugging, and there's all sorts of things going on there, just to give you a little bit of an idea of what it would look like inside there. Yeah, you can see well, okay, we changed too soon, but there was blue felt underneath some of those wooden things. Okay, another diagram to give you okay, next. No, go back. Sorry, I need to talk about this one first. Okay, so if you look at the pipe organ case, sometimes you'll have these big pipes on this side. They're getting shorter and shorter and shorter as they come in. You will see it inside the pipe organ too. It'll be one rank of pipes, but going bigger and then coming narrower into the center. They're alternating in semitones. As you play on the keys or the pedals. This is how they do it mechanically. There's rollers, big metal rollers. So let's say the lowest pipe is actually there, but the lowest key is here. How are you going to get there? So this one connects to a roller that will push down. Every time you push a key, the roller turns and pulls another tab over there that will open up the flap underneath that pipe. So it's so simple, but it's ingenious. So you will have this thing happening. And that's how they push down that key, but that pipe speaks. And as they go in semitones, black, white note, black, white, they can have it alternate because of these rollers. So it's really incredible. Okay, next one. Good, it's working. That gives you a little bit of an idea of when an organist pushes down the key. You can see all sorts of funky things going on there, levers pulling and carrying on, and then ultimately it has to tug and pull the pallet, they call it, the pallet open. That is a wind chest with a collection of rows of pipes. There's the stops controlling whether or not the air can speak through the pipes. When the organist pushes it in, it shuts it off. When they open it up, it opens up the channels again so the pipe can speak. There's your reservoir going ape over there in the corner, fluctuating up and down every time notes are played. And that, of course, goes with pedals too. It's the same sort of action of pulling and levers and things going on there. So you can see with that splashy design there, those two pipes are speaking, but the middle one is shut off still. Okay, another action. I'm just going to mention two. Like I say, there are others. The direct electric action is a later invention. Before there were all sorts of, there was electro-pneumatic, there was electro this and electro that, using all sorts of fancy magnets and little flaps, and some of them would be absolutely crazy. The organ I played in Johannesburg had a tubular pneumatic electric action, which meant that the keys were connected to the pipe cases way in front by thin tubes filled with high-pressure air. And when I pushed down the keys, it would release the air and then the flap would open. But as a result, you have a very slow, sluggish, delayed reaction, which was difficult to play complex pieces that moved quickly, because you would have this poop, poop, poop. There was like a brief second delay in the action, very annoying sometimes. Okay, electric action eliminates all those fancy little things, which is interesting and all, but as a result, they're not, it takes up less room, for one, not as fragile, and requires less frequent maintenance, right? You're not going to have things breaking that quickly and that easily. Did you know that Silent Night, the carol Silent Night, Stille Nacht, from the Alps, German-speaking country, I think it was Switzerland or Austria, that was composed as a result of a rat that got into the pipe organ before Christmas Eve and chewed through the leather bellows. Remember the bellows? Going up and down. So now there was no air getting into the pipe organ. And the music director and the choral director had to get together and come up with something. So they decided to play the lute, and they came up with Stille Nacht. So there they had their Christmas Eve carol. Okay, go back, please. I just want to see the last sections. Okay, it allows for greater distance between the console and the organ case. Before, it was very tough with those levers and pulleys and things. Okay, the mechanics, like let's say the pipes were over there. Here's your console, but it's a mechanical action. Can you think of all the twists and turns and special little things it'll take to get there? It'll be insane. And things can break so quickly. But this would allow long distances. So that's where you can see the organ is sitting on a balcony over here, and the pipes are over there. And the divisions are all over the building, which you couldn't have before. Greater programming possibilities, with the push buttons and things. You can do all sorts of things now with the electric actions happening. Okay, let's scroll. Families of stops. Now, this is fascinating. A lot of people don't realize these things, and why should they? They're just sitting and enjoying the beautiful music, right? They don't want to go, oh, I wonder which family of stop he's using now. Okay, so you have flue pipes. They call them flue pipes. Notice there's an E at the end, so it's not like, oh, I've got the flue, but flue pipe as in like a chimney flue. Think of pipes with all sorts of things happening. They're basically giant whistles. Okay, if you think of big metal recorders put on top of an air chest, you're in the right place. They can be either open at the top of the pipe or have a stopper plug in it. Now, this is a funny acoustical thing. If you take a certain length of a pipe and you put a wooden plug in the top, it sounds an octave lower immediately. Because what happens is that the sound waves will strike the lip of the pipe, set the air inside vibrating to a certain pitch, hit the plug, and then come back down. So you're in effect doubling the vibration. So you may have a flute pipe, for example, with a plug in it. That'll be boop, or no plug in it. Boop. You put the plug in it. Boop. It'll sound down the octave, okay? Go back, please. Yeah, there was some more on that page I just wanted to mention quickly. Okay, well, anyway, it said that the flue pipe section is, no, you're going too far. Okay, so the flute pipe section has 3 different families. You have what's called the diapasons. I'll explain it. You have the flutes, and you have the string section. Okay, this is a typical flute pipe from the front and the back. This is the one you will normally see shining and looking ever so impressive in the wooden case. When you're looking at it from the front, okay, air will come in from the foothold at the bottom, go up, and be directed by the languid into that small little gap and strike the upper lip. Okay, that small little gap is called the, no, if you can go back, please. It's too soon. Okay, that little gap is called the flue. That's why they're called flue pipes, because there's a flue there. Okay, you can see there's a lower lip, an upper lip, the mouth, the wind comes in and hits the upper lip because the flue is compressing the air to go nowhere else but hit that lip. And then what happens is that the air inside the speaking length of the pipe sets to vibrate. And that's what gives you the pitch. Okay, let's go to the next one now. Okay, flue stops. Number 1, the principles, which includes diapason. Okay, they're the foundation tone of the organ. They're usually made, they are made of metal. Normally the combination is zinc and tin, sometimes with lead. Okay, so zinc gives, how does it work? I know tin gives brilliance and brightness to the timbre, and lead creates a heavy, darker tone. And zinc, I can't remember what effect zinc has, but when you blend those metals together, when the metal cools, it actually becomes spotted, like leopard spots. And in order to make those pipes up front look so beautiful and burnished and shiny, sometimes they will paint them, other times they will apply a kind of a polish and then shine them, buff them until they're silvery looking, but that's not normally how they look behind the scenes. The timbre is neither stringy nor fluty. It has its own special tone. I will give you a sample in a minute. Usually in between full tone and rich in upper harmonics. Okay, so it will have a slightly brighter tone. Comes in a wide range of chorus. You can have 16 foot, 4 foot, 8 foot, all together. And this is how it sounds. Just a little sound sample. On this organ we have this. That's the 8 foot diapason. And then you can add a 4 foot. You can hear it's brighter because there's a smaller, higher pitched pipe added now. Then there is a 2 foot, which makes it even brighter. Okay, so the whole idea is that it works in octaves. 8 foot, 4 foot, 2 foot. So you can hear the octaves coming in, right? So that's a sample of the principal stops, the diapason stops. It's not really imitating anything. It's the organ's own specific sound. Okay, here's typical principal pipes in front of in the facade. This one is in Salisbury Cathedral in Britain. See, they're shiny, they're beautiful looking, but normally they would have little leopard spots on them. Here's another one from Bristol, a cathedral in Bristol. That's your typical pipes. Sometimes in the late 1800s into the early 1900s, the British started painting them. And then it spread. The French started doing it. It started appearing that way in the USA and Canada and all over the place. Sometimes they can be interesting, other times kind of gaudy. Kind of looks... Is that an organ I'm looking at, or a sari? I'm not sure. It's sort of it's its own style, right? Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Next flue, number 2, are the flutes. They can be imitative, other times not. They're just fluty. They're wide-scale pipes. This is interesting. The fatter and the bigger the scale of the pipes are, the flutier and the more round tone they become. The narrower you make your pipes, the more stringy and reedy and keen and sharp they sound. They're softer than the principals, full round tone with very few upper harmonics, so they have a very fundamental tone. They often will have what's called a chiff in the attack. When the wind first comes into the pipe and strikes the upper lip, you'll hear a toot, 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 toot as it hits. So quite oftentimes flute, especially the wooden ones, flute pipes will have that chiff in the attack. It's characteristic. Sometimes you want to keep it there because it's kind of cute, it's interesting. Comes in wide range of chorus, and here's example of flute. Flute, flute, flute. There are many on this organ. You can hear when the note starts, there's a slight toot, 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 toot. There's also a 4-foot flute. You can have extremely soft flutes like the Flute Celeste. See, it's in the swell section, so as you manipulate the swell pedal, it will get louder and softer. Flutes are also very, very popular in the pedal section. This one has a 32-foot flute stop in the pedal. Your normal standard is 16 foot. Then you have 8 foot, 4 foot, and now you add the 32. Creates a deep rumble on its own. What? It's like, that's the 32-foot all on its own. And the lowest C pedal is actually, would be a 32-foot pipe. But as you can hear, you almost can't hear anything. You have to add the others. And then suddenly it's like, okay. So there's your flute section. The next family is the strings. We'll move along here quickly. Ritva has to leave, and that's what some of the flute pipes look like. They're usually wood, mitered, workshop, glue, screws, sometimes with plugs on top, sometimes they're open. Okay, next one. Up close, that's the mouth. The air would come in and strike that upper lip. It looks just like a giant recorder, right? Okay, next. Okay, the strings. These are narrow scale. So keep this in mind. The narrower, the timbre of the pipe changes. The higher, the deeper the pitch, the longer. So your deeper pitched pipes will be long. And then as they start going like this, the pitch gets higher and higher and higher as you go up the keyboard. So the length determines the pitch. The width of the pipe determines its timbre, its sound, the tone. The wider, the fatter the pipe, the more woo, 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 woo. The narrower it'll become ee, ee, ee. So if you do like the Buddhist monks, right? The width and the narrowness of the pipe determines that. String pipes are softer than either flutes or principals. Keen, usually made of metal, keen, stringy tone with rich upper harmonics. That brightness is created by upper harmonics. They're often slow to speak, very sluggish because they're so narrow. You'll push the key and you'll hear this. There's no chiff in the attack. It's not bright, it's not clear. It's the way they counteract that is that they will put a little, what's called a beard, as a little roller that they will put right underneath the lip. And for some reason, it makes those pipes speak quicker. Celestes. Celestes on a pipe organ is a double row of string pipes, very soft, and one rank is out of tune with the other on purpose to create an undulating effect. The moment you have two sounds playing together and one is slightly flat or sharp, you'll get this effect. The most popular created by the French is Voix Céleste, two very soft string pipes. You can hear there's a slight throbbing effect. You can just hear it. It's almost like a stereo effect happening. It also has flute celeste, which is 2 flute pipes that are out of tune. You can hear it there. It also has a German celeste, soft flute. Okay, so that's an example of soft string tones. Okay, what do we have next, Ritva? Pictures. There's pictures coming. This is a string section. Some very large pipe organs will sometimes have an entire section, sometimes a whole keyboard with just string stops. If you can go back, you can see how tiny and narrow they are. Well, you can't now. Here today, gone tomorrow. Okay, this one has a beard on it. It's not very clear, but you can see there's a bulge underneath the mouth to make it sound quicker. It does something to the airflow that it hits the lip quicker. Otherwise, it's too so the beard makes it strike quicker. Here's a clearer vision. You can see they actually painted it red just underneath that lip. Those are called ears. That also helps to stabilize the wind and the tone. You saw them on the principals and the diapasons. They had ears either side of the mouth. Okay, next. Mutations, small, tiny little principals and flutes, all together, clustered, anywhere from 2, 3 to 5, 6, 7, all together. When you pull the stop, all of them open up at the same time. And what they do is that they are tuned to the upper harmonics, thereby enforcing them and making the whole organ sound very brilliant and bright. This organ has some very impressive ones. Here's one called Plein Jeu, French mixture. Very, very tiny pipes. So what does that do to the rest of the organ? I'll show you. So this is, for example, without. Now we're going to add a 2-foot, just for a little more brilliance. Now we're going to add the mixture. Do you hear that? All of a sudden it sounds brighter and fuller somehow. The one here on the grate is even better. So this is a collection of 4 small little pipes playing at the same time. This one's even brighter. Well, sort of. So with all those mixtures on, you would get this. Without any of the mixtures, you just get this. Still grand because you've got the trumpets, but here's with those little mixtures. It just fleshes it out brilliant on top. There should be some pictures of some of them. There, just rows and rows and rows of these tiny little pipes. When you pull one rank, they all sound at the same time. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, reeds are metal vibrators that strike a slot the moment the air comes into the pipe. So it doesn't have lips and mouth and all that. It strikes. If you've ever played a clarinet or a saxophone, you have an idea. You know, that reed striking in there. You get free reed pipes too, where the metal reed passes between and doesn't actually touch, like an accordion or a mouth organ. So it vibrates in and out without actually striking it. Free reeds are not popular today because they're very soft. They're very hard to hear. But there are some older organs that still have them, and if you want that sort of accordion-y sound, some organ companies do still make them. They're usually reserved for special pipe organs. Okay, next, let's have a look. There's a side view. The tongue is the vibrator, so your wind comes in through the bottom and sets that tongue vibrating, and it hits the shallot. And the sound goes through the trumpet section there at the top and vibrates through there. Okay, brassy stops. Did you want to ask something? Yes. In order to tune those pipes, there's a tuning wire that the organ technician will come and push up and down to flatten or sharpen it. And that tuning wire effectively shortens or lengthens the length of that vibrator. Oh, yes. Your two worst seasons are the transitionals, spring, autumn. Spring and autumn, the humidity changes and fluctuates, and so does temperature. They try as much as possible, if they can't in the entire church building, at least in the organ case, to keep humidity stable and temperature. Because with fluctuating metal and wood and everything stretches and shrinks at different rates, and they will go out of tune, something horrible. In fact, when they do go out of tune, this organ can sound absolutely insane sometimes. You can change the tuning. On this organ. And then it will actually sound like, oh, there we go. It can sound like it is severely out of tune. Let's have a look. That's not too bad. If a pipe organ is not maintained properly, that's what it can eventually sound like. Now imagine trying to do this at full ranks. Yeah, it's painful. And I have played pipe organs that are badly out of tune. Okay, so let's go to next. That's what they look. Okay, this is brassy. The trumpet stops. You've been hearing them all throughout. Look at those beautiful resonators. They actually look like brass trumpets sticking up there. The vibrators would be down in the boot, and then there'd be that tuning wire to tune it sharp or flat so that they are all in pitch. Let's go next. Some pipe organs have what's called Trumpet Onshamat. Shamad apparently is a battle call, where in the ancient times they would blow brass instruments to announce war is going to begin, and they would normally be jutting straight out of the organ case. Very popular in some countries, especially the Latin countries. So Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, Mexico, all those countries. Here a guy is putting them into the case. Okay, next. This is an old Portuguese pipe organ. The Iberians, the Spanish and the Portuguese love them. They will have several. In fact, most of the Iberian pipe organs, 50% of the organ are reeds. So they have reeds. They just love them, and they're all jutting out and fanning out all over the place. Typical Baroque Portuguese Iberian pipe organ. Okay. Next are the woodwinds. Now, the woodwind pipes, reed pipes can sometimes be imitative or not. They can sound like a real oboe, like a real clarinet, like a real bassoon. Other times, it's just a woodwindy, kind of reedy sound, right? They are softer than the brasses. They're not as loud as the trumpets. Quite often, they're reserved for solo. So you'll have a soft accompaniment and then a solo oboe or clarinet playing. Other times they will be added just to create a little bit of a color change. So typical French organ trumpet. Here's a lower, a clarion is an upper high trumpet. You can just hear it. Here's trumpet on the grate. Kind of sounds similar. Here's oboe. Kind of woodwindy. It sounds like a soft trumpet, actually. There's an old saying amongst organists, one man's oboe is another man's trumpet. Here's one that's called cormon. It kind of sounds like a clarinet. Now, if you throw all of them together, all your reeds, you get this. There's also a loud bombard trumpet on the pedal. So that's the reed section. Very, very insane, brassy, brilliant sounding. Okay, next. That's a cor anglais, 8-foot. Cor anglais is a lower, softer pitched oboe. And they can manipulate those tubes and things to create different sounds. It's got a bell shape at the top to kind of muffle it in and create a nasal tone, very narrow tubes to create that nasally oboe. Here's an oboe stop, very similar. Looking at it from the top with that interesting bell. Next. Good. Now we're going to look at cases. Wooden organ case. Should we have them? Should we not? Some organists, sound technicians say yes, others no. It depends on the situation. A wooden organ case holds the entire organ in a beautiful carved wooden case, sides everywhere. It creates a warmer tone, mellower, and it can subdue a very overpowering instrument if you're shifting an organ from one building to another. Oh boy, this sanctuary is half the size of this one. But it sounded wonderful in here, but in here it's blasting the people right out of the pews. So enclose it, make it warmer, more muffled and gentler sounding, right? It reduces the intense richness and brilliance if you have to. Okay, allows for a freestanding instrument. Oops. Okay, there we go. That can be placed in many locations because it's all together, right? Nice and together. Often ornate, beautiful, carved. This is one from King's College in Cambridge. Now, as you can see, it's a massive cathedral-type organ, but it's all neat and together, all boxed and encased. By the way, it has two facades, one on one side, one on the other. The reason for that is because British cathedrals oftentimes will have the priests and the choir on this side of a dividing screen, and the congregation sits on that side, so you have two. And the organist actually sits on that balustrade off to one side, but you can't see them because they're actually behind that thing. Look at those beautiful pipes and the angels blowing trumpets up top there. Next one. Tewksbury Abbey. Organ is off to the side. Look, it's got the side walls. It's all enclosed in wood up there. The organist is actually up top on the balcony. It is attached to the case. Okay, next. Organ chamber with a facade. Usually that is a section like underneath an arch where they've got a balcony, and they will put the entire organ on that balcony in that opening space, in that alcove. And then in front, they will put beautiful carved ornate wood with ornamental pipes in front of it. Kind of has a similar effect to a wood encased organ, kind of not. It's still very brilliant sounding. There's nothing really muting it. The French love them. So what you're seeing right now is a facade. The entire instrument is not actually encased in wood. It's just the front. What is at the front and the back? Well, the stone walls and the stained glass windows at the back. So it's actually open beyond those angels and all that. So it's just a beautiful screen facade you're seeing. Behind that, if you had to take a drone and fly up there, you'll see all the pipes are all open behind that. Okay, next one. Same thing with Saint-Sulpice in Paris. Beautiful wooden facade. It looks like it's all encased in a big closet, but it's not. Beyond that, it's actually all open in that alcove behind it. This is I'm so proud of our own French organ builders, from Quebec, Cassavant Frères. They build pipe organs all over the world, by the way. Typical French style, slightly painted pipes. Again, it's a screen, there's an alcove, big space with window behind it. All the rest of the pipes are behind that. Saint-Jean-Baptiste in Montreal. I have a recording of this organ. It's just beautiful. Okay, next. Unencased. You get pipe organs that have absolutely no encasing around the metal. They're all open. Very brilliant. Nothing hinders the tone. You can only get away with that in a very big building because there's nothing happening. It can be so overwhelming. If we had an unenclosed pipe organ there, even a small one, it would be way too loud. I would go for more of a classical Baroque with a nice wooden case around it to keep it mellow and keep it very contemporary looking. They can come up with some very funky designs. Let's have a look. Next one. National Shrine of the Holy Conception of Our Lady in Washington, D.C. I know there's a lot of light shining on it, but there's no wooden casing whatsoever. You have show pipes in the front with a beautiful rose window behind it. Behind that is all the rest of the pipes, but ultimately it's all open. They're free-speaking. Next one. Here's another modern one, Olivet Nazarene University in Illinois. Again, same thing. Look, it's just all open. It is in an alcove, which will have an effect. But ultimately still, there's really no wood. Wood is the one thing that will mute it and make it mellow and softer sounding, but there's no wood closing off anything. It's all open. Okay, let's take a look inside. I'm not going to talk too much about this old drawing showing you the main schematics, looking at it from behind the facade. Okay, as you can see, it's all open on top there. Next, okay, good. Here we're looking at wooden pipes. There's the facade gold pipes in the front. Look how they graduate. The big ones off to the side are the deeper sounding, and they get higher and higher in pitch the shorter and smaller the pipes get. Next. Just another general look inside to look at that clutter and cluster. I've been inside real pipe organs before, and it's mind-blowing. It looks like Hong Kong with all the skyscrapers, right? You're not actually sure what you're looking at. Here's another one looking through the building, the opening of the buildings on the other side. But again, you can see the opening there, the gangplank, the walkway. Technicians have to get to and fro somehow, right? They can't try and tiptoe between all the pipes and step on them. They're very soft. Metal is not very hard. Okay, here again, we're looking at gradually wooden pipes, metal pipes going from high-pitched way down below to deep, 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 deep. As you go, there's swell shades on the far end. They're all open, so this is probably a swell division. Next. There we go. Now, not all the spaces in between are this narrow. Some of them are wider. This is probably a small encased, like maybe a choir or a swell that's in a box. But as you can see, he's working. Can I go back? He's working with trumpets, and he's got a device in his hand where he's probably tapping that tuning wire. You will have to have someone at the keyboard pushing it down, and he'll tell you which one he wants. And you push it down, and as he's adjusting it, you'll hear it go till he gets the right pitch. And then they must all be in agreement with each other. Otherwise, you get that horrendous sound you heard earlier. Next. Okay, so we're going to sing In the Bulb. We're at the end of our program. Sorry, Rita, it was so long. In the bulb there is a flower. What a beautiful hymn for this time of year, talking about resurrection and life after death. By Natalie Sleeth. She wrote this to her grandkids because she was dying of a terminal illness. I can't quite remember what it was. And she wanted to prepare her grandkids for what was coming. But don't worry, you'll see Grandma again. Okay, so there's life after death. That's the whole idea of the bulb. Here we go. Let's hear some chimes. How's that? In the bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, what it holds a mystery, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. In our end is our beginning, in our time infinity. In our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. From our death a resurrection, at the last of victory. Unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. So you can hear the moment those mixtures and everything kicks in, all of a sudden it's big and bright, right? Okay, so our next slide should be, you know what, I'm just going to touch on this because it's so late already. Digital technology, capture the sounds of real pipe organs, including all the sounds of the chiff. Some of them even imitate the sound of wind blowing through the instrument before it's even being played, because you will hear wind. The moment you push that on button and those bellows go up, you will hear softly. If there was a pipe organ up there, you would actually hear the soft, soft hiss. What you would hear is a few clunks as everything fills up. You won't hear the fan. Normally they put the blower somewhere far away because it is noisy. It's a big industrial fan, stands about that high, sometimes 2, 3, or 4 of them. But you will hear this or a click as the bellows fill up, and you'll hear this hiss. So what they do with the digital instruments, this one, for example, they send sound technicians all over the world to capture the sound of real pipes, of real organs, and they record it note for note. Every single note of every row of pipes. Okay, and then they capture this into the instrument. So cost effective, takes less space, good for smaller churches where you can't accommodate a big pipe organ, but you can get a massive pipe organ sound. This should be in a cathedral, actually, but it's in Little St. John's. You could not do that any other ways, right? So our next section, will be session 25, part 4, the organ in the church. We touched on the history a little bit of bringing the organ in the church, yay or nay. Some loved it, some hated it. Some said it was pagan, some said it was too popish, too Catholic. During the Reformation, they would burn them, chop them up with axes and all sorts of things, stomp on them. Some horrendous things happened. So, and also the use of it in church. Accompanying choirs, accompanying the congregation. How should you accompany singing? How should you not? And all that stuff will be covered in that one. So that's the 21st. And then I'm going to close off with a quick organ piece for you. This is French from the Romantic era by Théodore Dubois. And it's simply a simple postlude. But this shows off that fiery French reedy brilliance that is so typical for the late Romantic era in France.